Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Wednesday, December 21st, and I'm Ryan Aselta. My first guest is the most decorated obstacle course racer in America with more than 30 victories to her name. She has won the world's toughest mudder 3 times and is a Spartan race champion. As if that wasn't enough, she's also a corporate lawyer for Apple. Amelia Boone is here. Amelia, quite the list here. Many people have heard of Tough Mudder. They've heard of the Spartan races. They see them come through their city. What you're doing is a little more intense. Tell us about these obstacle races that you've mastered over the years.
Yeah, so, for anyone who isn't familiar or hasn't been out to run a Tough Mudder or Spartan race, it's pretty much a full body experience. You know, you're running, you're jumping, you're climbing, you're crawling. It's very primal. It's very much out there using every aspect of your body. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Let me ask you about your other career and how you balance this. You're also a corporate lawyer. 2 very different careers and very demanding in the same right. I mean, how do you balance the 2 where it may be a weekend, you're doing one of these long, Tough Mudder races, and then you've got actual law work to do come Monday. How do you balance that?
It's not always a perfect fit. In 2014, after I won World's Toughest Mudder, I flew back to Chicago. I was in Chicago at the time, and then pulled an all-nighter in the office that night. So to me, I view my training time as kind of it's always been my release and my relaxation and my meditation, and it keeps me centered and focused. So I find that if the 2 together, kind of like juggling those balls in the air, I don't know, it's been a challenge, but it's fun. I like that game to try and balance it all.
The training, I'm sure, is intense. I know part of training becomes, the diet is very strict, unless you're Amelia Boone, from what I hear. Pop-Tarts before races, donuts during races. Amelia, explain yourself to athletes around America on how you do that.
Everyone's judging me right now. I can feel it. The Pop-Tart thing started out as like a joke a long time ago. I was winning this race, and someone was like, "God, Amelia, what'd you have for breakfast this morning?" I was like, "Pop-Tarts." And ever since then, it's become a ritual that I will eat a Pop-Tart before every single race. It's actually like they're easily digestible carbs. So you know how people use gels and goos and things like that? I mean, that's really what it is quick source of carbs. And so it sits well in my stomach, and it's been a ritual.
Very cool. The World's Toughest Mudder is being televised on CBS Sports Network. If you're someone at home watching the broadcast of this, what can you learn about the sport, and can it almost draw people to the sport, seeing what you guys go through, someone sitting on their couch? Will they be interested in getting involved in it?
I 110% think so. It's such a difficult thing to explain to people, and we've had a problem these past 5-6 years legitimizing the sport, telling people, hey, we're really athletes. We're not just people that crawl under barbed wire. That this is really hard. And I think that the show, that seeing this and seeing it televised, people realize like how demanding this is, because you need the speed, you need the endurance, you need the strength. I would argue that obstacle racers have to be the most well-rounded types of athletes out there. You can't just excel in one particular area.
Good luck down the road in competitions. I'm going to go have a Pop-Tart before today's workout.
Sounds good.
Amelia Boone, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, we are going to revisit one of our favorite interviews of 2016, former NFL running back Warrick Dunn, whose work away from football has brought joy to hundreds of families around the country. But first, broadcaster Jim Lampley has been behind the microphone for more than 3 decades. He's been the face of HBO's World Championship Boxing for over 25 years and has been a part of more Olympic broadcasts than anyone in his field. We recently caught up with the veteran broadcaster and got his thoughts on his favorite fights of all time in an SI Now Unguarded moment.
It was St. Patrick's Day night, 1970. It was a classic matchup between a proven veteran star who was at that moment unbeaten in 60-some-odd fights, who was looking to get his record to 100 wins, no losses. That was the goal for Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. Meldrick Taylor was a former United States Olympian with extraordinary talent who was unbeaten to that moment in his career. And it's one of the most poignant stories which ever took place in the ring, because Taylor fought the fight of his life. By my eyes, he won 9 rounds. He was clearly in control of the bout in the middle stages, and then Chavez, who's one of the greatest body destroyers in the history of the sport, began to get to his rib cage with solid shots, eventually started landing straight right hands in the last couple of rounds. And when he finally knocked Meldrick Taylor down, there were only a few seconds, fewer than 10 seconds to go in the fight. Taylor got up, and referee Richard Steele did not like his responses. And despite the fact that the light was on in the corner behind Taylor, indicating that fewer than 10 seconds remained in the bout, Richard Steele stopped the fight with 2 or 3 seconds to go on the expressed pretext, issued later in interviews, that he didn't want Taylor to take one more damaging shot. And there was a tremendous controversy about the stoppage. It's one of the most talked about and argued about stoppages in the history of the sport. And to this day, you can find fans who thought that Steele was right for protecting the fighter, and others who thought he was absolutely wrong for robbing Meldrick Taylor of a victory in the greatest performance of his life. The biggest upset in the history of boxing. And interestingly, the fight that many would remember as maybe the other candidate for biggest upset in the history of boxing, which was Cassius Clay's win over Sonny Liston, February 25, 1964. That just happened to be the first prize fight that I ever attended live. I was a 14-year-old at that time. So to have been there and then to wind up calling Tyson Douglas is kind of a poetic juxtaposition in my life. The one thing that I'll always remember most about Buster Douglas versus Mike Tyson, it took place at 11 o'clock in the morning, Tokyo time, and the crowd was, although large, so quiet that you could hear the slapping of the shoes on the canvas as Douglas and Tyson fought with each other. And from the first bell, from the opening minute of the fight, it was clear that Douglas had tactical advantages and that Tyson may not be able to deal with them. And then in the 10th round, Douglas put together the last in a series of successful combinations and knocked Mike out. As the blow-by-blow commentator and the voice of the event, I was searching in my mind for what was the best way to sum up at that moment the biggest upset in the history of boxing, and I chose the simplest phrase I could possibly think of at that moment, which was, Mike Tyson has been knocked out. And for boxing fans, that's one of my most famous calls because of the direct simplicity of the line.
And now it's time for our SI Now full-on feature countdown to the new year. In no particular order of greatness because, well, just like our kids, we like them all. Here's our number 8 favorite feature of 2016, a one-on-one with Florida State Seminoles legend and Tampa Bay Buccaneers All-Pro rusher Warrick Dunn, focusing on the loss of his mother and how Dunn has kept her spirit alive by helping others. Here's my conversation with Warrick.
Thank you, Jesus.
Warrick, you spent the morning in Newark, New Jersey, giving a home to a single parent. As part of your Homes for the Holidays program, the 150th home you've given to a single parent. Why is it so important to you to make such a difference in the lives of others?
I think it's important because of what I've learned at 18 years old, growing up in Baton Rouge, losing my mom at 18, and the city of Baton Rouge taught me what it means to give back, to care about your neighbor. And I just felt it was important to see positive change. It gives people hope, and I like to see people smile.
You started your charitable endeavors in your rookie year, starting Home for the Holidays. Do you remember that moment where it really clicked for you?
Honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, the first year was like a blur. And when I was actually handing over the keys and I was getting the reactions of their families, I had no idea. I was thankful, like, ooh, this is pretty cool, this or that. But when I went home later that night and looked at the television, that's when I started to understand, it's like, wow, I impacted a family in a way that is life-changing. I think from that experience, I've Next thing I was like, I want to do this again, but I need to go home to Louisiana. This is where it all started for me. My mom, she relied on me a lot to grow up and be the man of the house for her while she was working. And over the years, I've learned how tough she was, that she was a parent that didn't play. People didn't try her in a sense. She was one that was athletic but loving, but she wanted you to always stay in your place, you know, be a kid, or you know, just really thrive to be the best that you can be.
You were 18 when you lost your mom, when she was tragically killed in an off-duty assignment as a police officer.
I hung up that phone and was looking at my mom on the table. I knew right then and there that, you know, I need to look after my brothers and sisters. So the decision was already made. And I just had no idea how I was going to keep us together, what I was going to do. But my focus was to make sure that we stay together as a family. And they were my responsibilities. So I just think it was just instincts kicked in, that family first. And I was going to make sure that I looked after my family.
Was there almost a sense that you spent your career, you know, running from some of the pain, some of the painful memories that you had from your childhood?
I think I ran for a lot of people.
Sliding at the 30, jab step, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5, touchdown! Warrick Dunn!
Warrick Dunn, what a play! This guy can scoop.
Big run, Warrick Dunn.
I knew that other people were dependent on me. And I would tell you I was running for my life because it wasn't just about me. I was the head of my household, and I had to set the example. And football was just one of those outlets that I was able to do that.
Let's talk about some of the people who've played a role in shaping you as a person. I know many have shaped the person you are. You played college football under Coach Bowden.
We got 30 more minutes. No, we got 30 more minutes. Oh, okay. Everybody ready to go? Let's go, let's go, do this now.
I think people are placed in your life for certain reasons, and he was there for me. He was someone that listened to me and understood what I was going through. He can relate, and he treated all of his players like they were his sons. A figurehead that you can look up to, but putting God first, taking all the players to church before black church and a white church, you know, Catholic, Baptist church before the season starts. I mean, to me, that was really bringing us together as a unit, accepting each other for who we are. And I'm thankful for Coach Bowden. From Coach Bowden, you go to Coach Dungy, who, you know, giving us the opportunity to mature, grow, challenging us to be better than the norm. I think both of those guys have had a positive impact long term on me, and it helps me not forget about my past, but embrace it and challenge it and be forward thinking. How can I make the future for the generation behind me better?
Hands up, don't shoot! Hands up, don't shoot! What do we want? Justice! Now!
You wrote a very passionate piece for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution this summer after the shootings in Baton Rouge, saying that you struggle emotionally to understand why and how police officers are being targeted in the way they are. We can't just sit around and talk about how horrible all this is. We have to do something, and that means it always starts with the individual. Do you think your firsthand connection to gun violence can help prompt change?
There are pros and cons to owning a gun, and the negative is that lives are lost. And how can we control that and put a stop to people using guns for a senseless act? And, you know, writing that piece, I was emotional. And it took me back to 1993 when I lost my mom. And when you have incident after incident after incident across this country, and you can see that it's just starting to ball, racial tensions, just a lot of hatred things going on in the society. I just felt like I needed to bring a voice to it. This is a different world that we live in, and you know, everyone views the world a lot differently, so what can we do to continue to try to make this world a better place, not just for us today, but we have a generation that's coming behind us that if we don't make positive change, it's going to be a rude awakening.
You lost your mom 23 years ago. Where would you like to see our society, our country be 23 years from now?
I have a family. I want this world to be the best place that it can be for them. 23 years from now, I'm gonna be an old man, right? The divide in this country, we still have people that are racist, and you have people on the opposite fence. We need to really learn to bridge that gap. The decisions we make today impact the generation behind us, and someone has to set an example for those guys so that they can impact the generation that's going to come behind them. So anything that we do, we have to be forward thinking and thinking about the future of our kids in this country. Where do we want to go?
Warrick, thank you.
I appreciate
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Warrick really doing tremendous work in the community. Great stuff by him. All right, our next guest's family tree intertwines sports and music through multiple generations. His grandfather was a Super Bowl winning general manager, while his dad is a songwriter and his brothers are both quarterbacks. His single Rock On reached #2 on the Billboard country music charts. Country music star Tucker Beathard is here. And Tucker, you got a lot of sports in your blood, though.
Yeah.
You went the music route. How tough was that a decision for you to make to go and follow your dream in music rather than in sports?
It was tough. Yeah, I mean, because that's kind of all you know growing up. You know, it's kind of what your family is all about. And so I played all through high school, football and baseball, and was actually signed and committed to play baseball in college. And then, man, music was just my passion. And so I called the coach the night before I was supposed to start and said, man, I'm sorry, but I'm not coming anymore. I got to do music. So.
Yeah, what was that like for you down at Middle Tennessee State? You had
Yeah.
a scholarship to play baseball, and tough decision to make as a whatever 17,
Yeah.
18, 19-year-old kid, right?
Yeah, definitely the toughest decision I've ever made in my life. Probably just because everybody thought I was crazy, and getting the opportunity to play, keep playing after high school is something that, a lot of kids dream of, but it just wasn't for me. I just had to do it, but now I'm still surrounded by sports and get to watch my brothers and all that, so it's not like it's out of my life.
Yeah, right. Sports and the music industry, ultra competitive.
Yep.
Other similarities between the two now that you've been in, you've lived the sports world in your family life, now that you're in the professional country music singer, what similarities do you see between the two?
It's crazy. There's a lot, man, and I think sports, obviously prepare you for life and teach you a lot in whatever you do, but music for sure. I mean, because you got to work as a team. It's such a team effort. As much as I'm just Tucker Beathard, the artist, it's not just me, man. It's a whole team, and I'm just kind of like the quarterback of my team now.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of traveling, and like you said, being competitive. That's the most important thing, especially in music. It's such a cutthroat thing, and got to be the best. And I don't know. I think sports are just good life lessons all the way around, in whatever you do in life.
What do you think's more competitive, college baseball, college football, or the country music scene?
Shoot, it's tough. After being in the business for a few years, it's tough to see. It's a pretty competitive, strict, hardcore business. But I guess they're just kind of on different types of competitiveness.
Right. You mentioned quarterbacks. Your brother CJ is the quarterback at Iowa. They're getting ready to take on the Florida Gators in a bowl game. But one of the biggest upsets of the season in college football, his upset, the Hawkeyes over Michigan. How cool was that to see your brother on that stage in that game?
It was crazy. It was the coolest thing ever. They weren't having the year that they wanted, but I knew going into that game, playing in Kinnick Stadium at night is not going to be an easy game for any team. So, they came out, played like they had nothing to lose, and played like, all true Hawkeye fans know they are capable of playing. And luckily they did, and that was just a huge, milestone for their season, and something that that I'm so glad I got to experience
Yeah.
and be there for.
Who do you think's the bigger cheerleader? Him for you and your music career, or you for him playing quarterback at Iowa?
I don't know. It's tough. It's probably pretty close. I mean, I feel I always said I guarantee, not so much anymore, but when he was starting off, like getting the starting job as a quarterback, like I could have sworn that I was always way more nervous for him before games than he was for himself. So we support each other both, more than anybody. So it's a cool relationship.
Yeah, you mentioned that support. How about as a whole from the family? A family that really had sports running through all of your blood, going back to your grandfather and his brother at USC, who won a national championship there. How much support did the sports family give the musician getting into this this line of work?
They support me. They obviously whatever I do, we're such a close family and everything. But at the same time, it was just, I think it was a different pill for them to swallow.
Was it tough for them at first when you told them, hey, I'm going to stop playing baseball?
I mean, I don't know if they were like tough or like disappointed me or like anything like that, but it's probably because they're not as familiar with the music business and everything, But yeah, I mean, they just probably weren't used to a Beathard quitting, sports.
Yeah. If they didn't get it then, I'm sure they get it now with seeing the success of your album. How about your grandfather, Bobby? He was once dubbed the smartest man in the NFL by Sports Illustrated.
Yeah.
What did you learn from him, and what's the best advice Bobby Beathard ever gave you?
Man, the thing about my grandpa is he's one of those people that you just want to work hard for, because he I don't know, he's got a great judge of character and no ego to him at all. So just growing up around him and watching how he carries himself and runs his businesses and manages all the teams he did, it's just something that learning by example is tough to deny or not have it try to rub off on you and look up to. So I don't know, he's just a great guy and on and off, outside of the NFL.
It seems like a great role model, whatever
He is.
profession you choose, whether it was
Right.
sports or music. Well, the album is Fight Like Hell. Tucker Beathard, good luck. I know you're going to be touring in January. Start kicking that off, and the album's doing really well. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
SI Now.
Appreciate it.
All right, and that's going to do it for this Christmas week Wednesday episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow when Maggie will be joined by country music superstars Rascal Flatts, and we'll relive the phenomenal history of the Philly Fanatic. That all happens at 1 p.m. Eastern. Until then, stick with SI.com, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great day.